20,000 vacation in Hawaii. My son's shocking twist left me broken. How long until I forgive him? It started as the perfect getaway, a week in Hawaii, sun-soaked beaches, and smiles all around. I had been planning it for months, picturing the gentle waves, vibrant sunsets, and laughter filling our days. But just hours into our trip, everything went sideways. My heart raced when I received that unexpected phone call. The kind that turns your world upside down. My son, Ben, had his own plans, a secret that clawed at my insides, leaving me breathless and in disbelief. The unusual began to unravel as I pieced together snippets of his cryptic messages. He said he wanted an adventure, something beyond my visions of luau's and snorkeling. His words were a whirlwind, a mix of excitement and a hint of rebellion. I'd seen that spark before, but this time, it felt different, darker. It wasn't just a desire for fun, it was something more, something that set off alarms in my gut. With every passing hour, I felt the tension tightening around my chest. I looked around at the smiling faces on the beach, the foreign laughter cutting through the humid air, and there I was staring at my phone in sheer panic. Suddenly, a voice echoed behind me. A couple of tourists gossiped. Did you hear about the teen that went missing these last few days? They think he was last seen around here. My heart sank. Is it him? I thought. Could it be? I grasped my phone tighter, sweat trickling down my back. I had to find Ben. I had to confront this mystery. An ocean between us wouldn't keep me safe, it felt closer than ever with each terrified heartbeat. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the hours crawled by and darkness enveloped the paradise around me, I couldn't shake off the feeling of dread. What if Ben was caught up in something dangerous? The bright lights of Waikiki blurred with the harsh reality weighing heavily on my mind. Questions consumed me. What was he hiding? How long until I could face him again? I paced like a caged animal, adrenaline kicking in, unable to breathe, craving answers. And then came the last twist. My phone dinged. A message from Ben, just 3 words, I need help. The words on the screen glared back at me. I need help. My heart pounded as panic coursed through my veins. I was on a vacation teeming with dreams, yet all I felt was dread, a desperation to understand what Ben was facing. My fingers hovered, trembling over the keyboard, but my thoughts were a chaotic mess. Should I respond? Would I make things worse? I finally typed back, where are you? I hit send, holding my breath. Each second that ticked by felt like an eternity. The neon lights of the beach scene faded into a blurred background as my mind spiraled into worst-case scenarios. What if he was hurt? What if he was wandering in the dark, scared and alone, trapped in a nightmare while I stood here, paralyzed? The phone buzzed again, jolting me from my thoughts. His reply came quickly, downtown. Just one word, but it rang like an alarm bell. I didn't even know where he might be. My legs were already moving before I fully registered it. I dashed from the beach, leaving the merry sounds of laughter behind me. The vibrant community I had envisioned felt foreign now, strangers casting sidelong glances at the frantic mother in need of her son. That I rushed through crowded streets, anxiety bubbling just below the surface. I navigated past vibrant shops and tourists wandering leisurely, blissfully unaware of my turmoil. My breath quickened as the neon lights of the main strip illuminated the pulse of the night. Every face I passed made my heart ache. What if one of them had seen Ben? I forced myself to stop at a small bar, catching my breath but refusing to succumb to defeat. Has anyone seen a boy? I asked the bartender, my voice shaky yet demanding. A boy? Here?" he asked, raising an eyebrow and pausing to wipe down the counter. "Please, just tell me if you've seen him." "He is 16, dark hair, wearing a blue shirt." "Nope, sorry lady," he replied, shrugging, and I felt the crushing weight of his dismissal. With each passing moment, darkness wrapped around me tighter, and a new storm of thoughts brewed. I needed more than words now. I needed leads, anything. I spotted a group of teens huddled in a corner, laughing and tapping their phones. Maybe they knew something. I steeled myself and approached, my heart racing. "Hey," I said, forcing a smile that felt brittle. "Do you guys know a boy named Ben?" They looked up, a mix of curiosity and confusion on their faces. One girl stepped forward, her brow furrowed. "Why? What happened?" "Just, please, I need to find him," I pleaded, desperation spilling from my voice. Suddenly, a boy in the back spoke up. "Wait, I think I saw him earlier down by the old pier. He was with some guys." My heart froze. The pier? I'd heard rumors that it was a spot for trouble. Why would Ben go there? The dread coiled tighter around me, invasive and suffocating. "Where exactly?" I pressed, unable to keep my voice steady. "Near the water," he shrugged, looking unsure that I turned, darting back into the night, propelled forward by fear and a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, I would find him before it was too late. The pulse of the beach faded, replaced by the thunderous sound of the ocean, roaring and wild. The salty air stung my eyes as I approached the old pier, eerily quiet, save for the crashing waves below. A dim light flickered somewhere ahead, and my heart pounded louder. What had Ben gotten himself into? I took a step closer, my breath seeming to catch in my throat. Then, as I neared the edge of the pier, I heard voices, low and urgent. I crept closer, straining to catch every word. "This is not a game, Ben." A chill shot down my spine as I realized the voice belonged to a stranger. Who were they? What were they doing with my son? Fear gripped me, but I had to know what was happening. I crouched down low, heart racing, and prepared to confront whatever I would find. Would I be able to save Ben in time? The whispers floated through the night air, slicing it like glass. I held my breath, inching forward, desperation fueling each tentative step. My fingers curled around the worn wooden railing, my heart thundering in my chest. Who was this voice? What game was he talking about? The questions swirled in my mind, a maelstrom of panic tightening around me. "Ben, you need to understand what's at stake." The voice insisted, tinged with urgency. "You can't just ignore this." My stomach flipped as I leaned closer, the scent of salt and danger mingling in the air. I peered into the dim light ahead. Shadows danced around the pier, and I could barely make out the shape of three figures. Ben was one of them, his familiar silhouette painted against the flickering light. He looked small, vulnerable. "Let's just talk about it," Ben's voice came, shaky but defiant. Didn't he mean to what? The stranger interrupted, a sharp edge in his tone. "This is a serious mess, and now you're involved. There's no backing out." I felt a surge of blood drain from my face. My son was involved in something serious. What had happened to turn my vacation into a nightmare? "Please," another voice chimed in, a girl's voice, low and soothing. "Just listen to him." I squinted, trying to get a better look. The flickering light barely illuminated the faces of the others. The girl's features were soft yet set with determination. I strained forward, using every ounce of courage to stay hidden, while my heart screamed at me to jump into the open and take Ben away from these people. Suddenly, the boy reached out, grabbing Ben's shoulder. "You think it's that easy? You think you can just walk away after everything?" My heart dropped. This wasn't just a simple misunderstanding. This was escalating dangerously. "Stop it!" Ben shouted, shrugging the boy off. "You're not listening to me. I can fix this." The chaos in my chest sparked into a flash of anger. I wanted to scream at him. Did he even know what he was talking about? What had he done? Ben. I whispered, barely able to contain the rising fear. His head snapped in my direction, confusion clouding his features. In that instant, my eyes locked onto his beautiful, filled with uncertainty, and shimmering with a fear I recognized all too well. But it was too late for soft words. I couldn't let this continue, not another moment. Not while I stood by and let it happen. Ben! I yelled, rushing out from behind the beam that had shielded me. The world froze. The teenagers turned, expressions morphing from anger to shock. Ben's eyes widened, and I saw something flicker there, a hint of relief, mixed with the dread of being found out. Their stunned silence felt heavy, hanging between us like a frayed rope. My hands clenched into fists, a surge of protectiveness crashing through me, drowning out every flicker of fear. What have you done? I demanded, my voice slicing through the tense atmosphere. Mom! Ben started, but I cut him off, stepping closer, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Before he could explain, the boy took a step towards me, a defiant look on his face. You shouldn't have come here. It's not safe. Not safe. I echoed, my heart pounding louder. What have you put him in? That's when I saw the truth, the panic behind the bravado. They were scared too. Suddenly, the dim light flickered again, illuminating a tattoo on the boy's arm, something that twisted the pit in my stomach. It was a symbol, one I recognized from the whispers of the local news. My mind raced. This was a gang. The piercing echo of approaching sirens split the night, rising like a tide. My heart lurched. How far had they gone? What would happen next? Ben, come here. I shouted, my pulse racing. The boys exchanged quick glances, and I saw the girl shifting nervously, biting her lip. Now, I said, panic bubbling, tell me the truth. And just like that, the stakes rose even higher, and the ground beneath us felt precarious. What secret were they all hiding? Would I finally confront the truth or get pulled in deeper? The tension in the air was electric. The boy with the tattoo stepped back, his bravado cracking like glass. You really want to know? He spat, fear dancing in his eyes. Ben's gaze flickered between me and the others, a silent struggle playing out on his face. Mom, please, I can explain, he stammered, desperation lacing his voice with a quiver. Explain what? That you've gotten yourself mixed up with criminals. I shot back, pain twisting my gut. You can't just play innocent. What's at stake here? Before he could respond, the girl stepped forward, her expression surprisingly soft, almost pleading. It's not like that. We were just trying to survive, you know. We didn't mean for this to happen. Her words pierced through the drum of anxiety, and for a moment, I saw the fear in her eyes. They were just kids, and yet the weight of the world seemed to rest on their shoulders. Survive? I echoed, temperature rising in my chest. Survive what? Tell me. Just then, the sirens grew louder, reverberating through the night and filling the air with urgency. My heart kicked harder, an instinctual warning blaring inside me. I needed to get Ben away from here, from them, before it was too late. The boy spoke again, his voice low and urgent. You need to go. They're coming for us. Who? I demanded, the chill creeping back. What have you done, Ben? All eyes turned to him, and for a heartbeat, silence wrapped around us like a cold blanket. His bravado faltered, and I watched as the truth began to spill forth from the boy beside him. Ben was just trying to help a friend, he finally admitted. But things escalated, and now they think he knows too much. They want him out. I felt the ground shift beneath me. Out? Out of what? The tattooed boy's voice dropped even lower, trembling with urgency. A shipment. Stolen goods. If the wrong people find you, you put everyone in danger. Shut up. The girl hissed, her eyes darting nervously to the shadows closing around us. "You can't say anything more." Panic gripped me, tightening my throat. This was beyond anything I had imagined on this vacation. I reached for Ben, half expecting him to step forward, but instead, he recoiled slightly, uncertainty crossing his face. "Mom, I didn't mean to, it just happened." "I don't care," I shouted, frustration bubbling over. "You need to get out of here. Now." The sirens were closer now, almost tangible in their menace. I could see flashing lights cutting through the night. "Ben," I pleaded, begging him with my eyes to come back to me. "We need to go. We can figure this out later." But just then, the boy stepped between us, glaring at me with a protective ferocity. "No. If he goes with you, they'll find him. We have to stick together." The desperation in his voice cut deeper than any accusation could. "You don't understand, they don't care who gets hurt." "Enough." I spat, heart pounding like a war drum. "You think I'm just going to stand by while you all play with fire? I want my son back." Ben's expression shifted, guilt and fear swirling together. "I'm not a kid anymore, Mom. I can handle this." My heart dropped. He was slipping from my grasp, caught up in a world that I couldn't understand. The night seemed to grow darker as I realized the truth. I was losing him, nothing mattered more than that. But before I could protest, the shadows shifted around us, a dark figure materializing in the distance. Confusion pierced through the fog of panic. The sirens were right behind them, closing in. "Run!" Ben shouted, his voice breaking free from the panic. "Run? Where?" I shouted back, but I knew there was no answer. The night had transformed into an unknown battleground, and survival instincts kicked in. We turned, but I felt the weight of betrayal and fear. This wasn't the boy I raised, this was a stranger. How did it all go so wrong? Then I realized we weren't just running from them, we were running from the secrets that threatened to tear us apart forever. As we dashed down the pier, voices screaming behind us, my heart raced with a question that echoed each step: what else had he hidden? Would we ever be able to put the pieces back together? And as the darkness swallowed us whole, I knew, without doubt, that this was just the beginning of a deeper nightmare. The night closed in around us like a shroud, the sound of racing footsteps mingling with the distant wail of sirens. The pier, once a place of fun and laughter, felt like the edge of a precipice, teetering on the brink of catastrophe. Ben's grip tightened on my arm as we ran, his face pale moonlight, each shadow playing tricks on our terrified minds. "What do we do? Where do we go?" I gasped, stealing glances over my shoulder. I was searching for the dark figure, but the shadows were swirling, morphing into something sinister. "We have to find somewhere safe. They'll know we're here." Ben's breath was ragged, panic clinging to his words like a thick fog. The realization crashed over me relentlessly: they were coming for him, the boy tangled in a web of danger. We ducked behind a nearby boathouse. The salty tang of the ocean mixed with the metallic scent of fear swirling in my chest. I could hear my heart thundering in my ears, drowning out the chaos behind us. "Ben, what have you done?" My voice was barely a whisper, fear taking root in every syllable. "What did you get yourselves involved in?" His eyes glimmered with unshed tears. "A friend, I thought I could help her. She needed money, Mom. You don't understand, she was desperate. Desperate enough to drag you into something dangerous." I felt the bitterness slip through my lips, and I hated myself for it. The idea of my son being in this mess twisted my gut. "Mom, stop. Please." He pleaded, breathing heavily. "You're not listening." It started with a panicked phone call. Then I got dragged into it deeper. "You have to believe me, it's not what it seems." Behind the boathouse, the shadows thickened as footsteps echoed on the pier, more than one set approaching. I pressed my back against the cool wood, my heart racing like a runaway train. "Who else is involved?" I forced the question out, a mix of fear and anger flooding my words. What kind of people are we talking about here? It's not just the other kids, there are adults too, he admitted, his voice trembling. Gang members, I think. They thought I could help with the shipment. Once I realized the truth, I tried to back out, but they wouldn't let me go. A cold shiver shot down my spine. The world was getting darker, swallowing everything whole. How did my son, my sweet boy, get himself tangled in this nightmare? I fought the urge to scream, to shake him until the truth spilled out. A loud crack echoed through the night, and I flinched, instinctively grabbing Ben's arm tighter. What was that? I hissed, peering out to the pier. My heart dropped as figures emerged from the shadows, 3 of them, their faces obscured in darkness, but the glint of something metallic in their hands told me everything. It's them. Ben's voice broke, panic flooding his features. They're looking for us. Suddenly, my thoughts raced. If they were looking for Ben, they would come looking for me too. I was his mother, but now I felt like a liability, a weight dragging him back. Run! I urged him, fear igniting the words. We need to keep moving. We sprinted toward the end of the pier, the water crashing against the pylons below echoing the frantic rhythm of our hearts. But it didn't feel like enough. I could feel their eyes boring into the back of my head, the pursuit intensifying. Mom! We have to hide. They can't see us. Ben yelled, tugging on my arm. He led us into the shadows of a nearby shipping container, the cold metal pressing against my back. Heavy footsteps thudded closer, and I could barely breathe, feeling the weight of terror settle around me like a vice. I clenched my fists, the fear of losing him gripping me like a chokehold. Shoo, he urged softly, his gaze glancing up at me wide and pleading. My mind raced, futures slipping away like grains of sand. We could be trapped, caught in a world we didn't belong to. What lengths would they go to find him? To silence him? And just when I thought I could catch my breath, a voice boomed from the pier, chilling me to the bone. Where are they? I know you're here. Suddenly, the container shook as shadows loomed over us and a dark figure stepped forward, eyes locked on us through the slats of metal. Ben. The voice sent shivers down my spine. You can't run forever. I squeezed Ben's hand tighter, a sensation racing through me. Was this the moment it all fell apart? As the reality hit hard, a new question burned in my mind: how far would I go to save him? Would I risk everything, including my life, to fight through this nightmare? The answer was suddenly clear as the figure leaned closer, ready to drag us into the abyss. My heart raced against the storm of choices ahead, demanding I make a decision: fight or flight. The clock was ticking, and the night had just begun to devour its prey. Panic surged in my veins as the shadowy figure moved closer, inching around the edge of the shipping container. I could hear the rasp of their breath, the weight of their presence pushing down on us like a heavy blanket. Every instinct screamed for me to act, but I couldn't seem to find my voice beneath the suffocating fear. Mom, please. Ben's whisper was barely audible. I felt his body trembling next to mine, every nerve in me ready to bolt. Stay quiet, I hissed, my own heart matching his rhythm. I refused to breathe too loudly, terrified that even the slightest sound would expose us. The figure paused, scanning the area like a predator tracking its prey. For a moment, I thought our racing hearts were louder than the pounding surf. I clutched Ben's hand, my nails digging into his skin as dread tangled in my gut. Look! The voice barked again, sharper this time. I know you're in there, Ben. You've messed up, and now it's time to face the music. It felt like ice water coursed through my veins. That voice thick with menace and personal history. I knew it. It was one of the gang members Ben had described. The weight of his involvement settled heavily in my chest. I swallowed hard, straining to see more through the thin slats. The figure's face was still shrouded in darkness, but the outline was unmistakably familiar, a flash of recognition sending a cold shiver down my spine. He was one of the older boys from the neighborhood, I'd seen him hanging around when I was watching Ben play basketball last summer. Why are you doing this? I wanted to scream. But words failed me. Instead, I leaned closer to Ben, urgency filling every crease on my face. We need to get out of here. Now. His eyes darted back to the figure. If we don't come out, they're not going to stop, he murmured, barely keeping his voice steady. There was a heavy silence, and then the figure spoke again, frustration lacing his tone. I don't want to hurt you, Ben. But you've put us all at risk, and now you need to pay the price. Pay the price. My mind raced. What had he gotten himself involved in? I felt the edges of my reality fraying as fear took hold. I glanced at the shipping container exit, weighing my options. We could make a run for it. But I wasn't sure we could outrun them. The sirens growing louder in the background reminded me that help was near, but was it too late? Mom, I want to let them take me, Ben whispered fiercely, determination flickering in his eyes. We'll figure this out together, I promise. The sound of footsteps echoed from further down the pier. They were coming closer, and we couldn't stay hidden forever. I didn't want to lose Ben, not to them. Okay, on my count, we're going to bolt for the end of the pier, I said tightly, heart racing with desperation. 1, 2, 3. I flung the container door open, adrenaline surging as cold, salty air rushed over us. But just as I stepped outside, a booming voice called from behind. Where do you think you're going? Time slowed. The world narrowed to that one ominous question. With nowhere left to hide, what choice remained? I took a step backward, instinctively shielding Ben with my body. But even as I did, a flood of thoughts crashed into my mind. How had it come to this? A split second later, the figure lunged toward us, and I felt the gravitational pull of helplessness. Run! I shouted, adrenaline spiking as we darted toward the end of the pier. My heart thundered like a war drum. But the shadows were moving, relentless and hungry. We raced forward, fate hanging dangerously in the balance. Ahead, the pier stretched on, but behind darkness encroached fast. And as we fled, I could not shake the thought, what if this was only the beginning? What else would unfold before the night was over, and would I have the strength to confront it? As we reached the edge of the pier, the chilling reality hit. There was nowhere left to run. An empty horizon lay before us, and terror wrapped its icy fingers around my throat, tightening with every heartbeat. What would await us beyond that edge? The world around us felt surreal as I confronted the vast void ahead. The pier dropped off into the dark, cold water, the waves crashing beneath us as if beckoning. Panic clawed at my throat. I could almost taste the salt in the air mixed with the fear bile rising from my stomach. Mom, what do we do? Ben's voice trembled beside me, the strength in his tone faltering as he glanced back towards the approaching figure. Stay close, I whispered urgently. My mind fired off frantic scenarios. Jumping was out of the question, it was a risky gamble. I could hear the footsteps echoing behind us, a wolf in pursuit. Come on, Ben. Look for a way out. I urged, desperation painting my voice. I scanned our surroundings, looking for options. The pier should stretch on. Maybe there were boats. Over here. Ben shouted suddenly, lunging toward a stack of crates piled haphazardly to our left. My heart raced as I followed. What was his plan? He climbed atop and then pointed, breathless. That one. We can jump to that other section. Are you crazy? My voice was sharper than I intended, but fear flooded my veins. What if we fall? He looked at me, determination igniting his eyes. It's a chance. We can't just stand here. The footsteps pounded closer, the figure's shadow casting an ominous shape against the lights from the nearby docks. My chest tightened with mounting panic. I had to trust him, had to believe in the fire I saw in his eyes. Okay. I relented, heart pounding loudly against my ribs like a war drum. On 3. We climbed onto the crates, my fingers grasping the rough wood, feeling the splinters digging into my palms. 1, 2, 3. I pushed off and leaped, soaring through the air in a moment that felt agonizingly slow. I landed hard on the edge of the next platform. My knees buckled, a shockwave of pain shooting up my legs. "Mom!" Ben exclaimed as he followed suit, miraculously making the jump to land beside me. I grabbed his arm, half pulling him up as we stumbled forward. "Keep moving." We sprinted along the narrow walkway, dodging barrels and stacks of supplies. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed behind us, closing in. It filled me with a raw fear, a visceral need to survive. "Head for the dock," Ben yelled, his voice edged with adrenaline. Ahead, I spotted a small boat bobbing gently against its mooring. A light flickered on board, casting shadows around it that felt like the promise of escape. "Ben, what if it's locked?" "Only one way to find out." I rushed toward the boat, my heart hammering in my chest as dread shifted to hope. But our pursuer seemed to sense our intentions. "Stop!" The voice commanded from behind us, a warning that morphed into something more sinister. I turned, the figure emerging from the shadows, a familiar smirk twisting his lips. My heart sank. He wasn't just a kid, he was part of it all, the gang, the danger that had woven into our lives. "What's it going to be, Ben?" he sneered, taking a step closer. "You really think you can run away? Get away from us!" I shouted, stepping in front of Ben, my protective instincts kicking in despite the sheer terror coursing through my body. "Mom," Ben whispered, fear etching lines across his innocent face. "Just get on the boat." We were trapped and I could feel the walls closing in. I took another step toward him, every instinct yelling to protect my son. "Don't be stupid," he smirked, confident in our inevitable demise. "You know this is where it ends." "What do I say? What can I do?" A sudden crash, the sound of heavy footsteps splashing closer, and the night screamed with tension. Panic surged through me again as I contemplated what this could lead to. Maybe we could fight back. What if Ben had to confront him? Would it come to that? And then I remembered something Ben had said about them, and the sudden dread over what this gang truly wanted clawed through my mind. What if giving in was the only way out? "Ben!" I shouted, panic straining my voice. "Trust me." But as I turned, I found that the shadows had swarmed around us. The realization hit like a knife, it wasn't just one person. There were more. With nowhere left to run, I faced the shadows spiraling toward us. Was this truly the end? "Mom, what now?" Ben asked, and in his voice, I felt the weight of desperation. What would I tell him next? Would the truth fracture everything? I swallowed hard as I hesitated. My mind raced to find a solution, but suddenly it all seemed so dark. As the figures edged closer, their eyes gleaming menacingly, the cold grip of terror wrapped around me. Where was the end of this nightmare? And just as the shadows seemed to swallow us whole, one sharp thought pierced the air: what would we sacrifice to survive? My heart thudded in my chest as those cold eyes bore into us. They weren't just shadows, they were danger incarnate. I leaned slightly into Ben, trying to protect him with my body, but panic clawed at the edges of my mind, clouding my thoughts. "Get away from him!" I screamed, defiantly striding toward the encroaching figure. I'd never felt so vulnerable or scared in my life, yet the thought of losing Ben made my blood boil. Two more figures stepped out from the darkness, their faces contorted in malicious glee. "Look at this!" The noble mother challenging the inevitable, the leader taunted, his voice slick with mockery. "How poetic!" "Mom," Ben's whisper hit me like a wave. "What do we do?" Ben was smaller than them, but not defenseless. They could see his fear, and it seemed to fuel them. I had to reposition him behind me, forcing a shaky breath past my tightly clenched throat. "We can't give up, Ben. Just trust me, okay? Trust you. They're going to hurt us. Ben. Look." I gestured back toward the flickering boat. Its light shimmered, a beacon in this chaos. We need to make a run for it now. But the figures laughed, a bone-chilling sound that echoed across the pier. You think you can outrun us? This is our territory, the leader hissed. You're trapped like rats. Mom. Ben's voice cracked, fear radiating from him. My heart twisted at the sight of his wide, terrified eyes. I couldn't let him see me break. I had to be strong for him. With a quick glance at the boat, the flickering light suddenly felt like a cruel joke. In the distance, I caught movement. A reflection. Was that a way out or an illusion? Step aside, lady, one of the cronies said, pushing past me with brute force, leaving me feeling small and helpless. This doesn't concern you. I surged forward, adrenaline flooding my veins. It concerns my son. I want to let you take him. As I lunged at the nearest thug, the world around me seemed to blur. I felt a fist connect with my side, pain exploding like fire as I stumbled backward. Ben gasped, and the instinct to protect him kicked in even deeper. No. My voice echoed into the night as I steadied myself, the edges of my vision sharpening with sheer determination. We're not playing your game. From behind me, Ben's eyes glimmered with a mix of fear and anger. I'm not afraid. He shouted suddenly, his small voice ringing with defiance. Ben, stay back. I shot a glance over my shoulder and saw his hand trembling, reaching for something I didn't comprehend. But the gang sensed it too. Their laughter morphed into a sneer. Look at the hero. What will that do for you, kid? And suddenly, I remembered the old metal pipe lying carelessly amid the crates. The thought struck like lightning. Ben. Do you see it? Grab that pipe. He hesitated for just a moment as they approached. I felt my heart seize, praying he'd listen. Without further delay, I charged toward the pipe, hoping I could reach it first. The thugs stepped forward, their smiles fading. They could smell desperation, the scent wafting through the fog of night. Stop! The leader shouted, their calm facade cracking, revealing their uncertainty now that I was desperately alive to fight back. Moments passed slowly as I raced toward the pipe, my hand extending for it, fingers brushing the cold metal. Ben still lingered behind me, the shadows flickering around, taunting him. Then, in one swift motion, the moment splintered, changed irrevocably when the unthinkable happened. A shot rang out, slicing through the night like a razor. They jerked back, eyes wide with shock, but everything fell silent. My heart plummeted. Mom. Ben's voice broke the hush, echoing my own thoughts. I froze, tasting the air, filled with gunpowder and disbelief. Had they drawn a weapon? How could this have escalated so quickly? The faces of the thugs twisted as they regrouped. Their fearless demeanor shattered. It was clear, we had stepped off a precipice into something more than just an evening fight on the pier. Mom, I'm scared, he whimpered. And that's when I realized, we weren't just fighting for escape anymore. We were fighting for our lives. But in the chaos of it all, one thought clouded my mind. Was this the last choice we had? As the echoes of chaos faded, I could sense the darkness tightening around us, the shadows waiting to consume us whole. Ben, hold my hand. No matter what happens, I want to let go. But a crack in the night whispered a new danger lurking. What if help arrived too late? What if we were outnumbered? And in that vulnerable moment, whispered a terrifying truth, a darkness was closing in, but deeper than that, what if we were in deeper trouble than I ever imagined? The shot reverberated through the night as if time had crumbled, leaving us suspended in a gruesome limbo. I turned, adrenaline coursing, heart hammering, scanning our surroundings. The thugs looked bewildered, eyes flitting between each other as though questioning the reality of what just happened. Who shot? I gasped, horror mingling with confusion. But no one answered, the night was thick with uncertainty. Ben. I pulled him closer, my grip tightening. His breath was shaky against my wrist, but he remained steadfast. I felt his heartbeat, wild and turbulent, echoing my own. "Mom," he started, but I shushed him, urgency flooding through me. The gang leader, a haunted look now shadowing his features, jutted his chin toward the remaining figures. "Get her!" he barked, his bravado cracking under the chaos. Just as they lunged forward, another shot rang out, sharper this time. The smell of gunpowder mixed with the damp air, and I could see panic etching itself deeper into their faces. One of them stumbled back, clutching a shoulder, blood pooling against his shirt. "Run!" I screamed, pulling Ben along. It wasn't a suggestion, it was a command fired from the depths of my fear. But just as we turned to bolt towards the boat, the third thug surged to intercept us. His eyes glinted with wild fury as he raised a makeshift weapon, a heavy iron rod. The darkness had morphed into something tangible, an imminent threat stretching out before us like barbed wire. "Mom, look out!" Ben shouted, and I barely had time to react that I ducked instinctively, feeling the rush of wind as the rod swung over my head. Adrenaline surged through me, a raw instinct to protect driving my every move. I pushed Ben to the side, sending him stumbling to the ground before I faced our attacker. "Stay down!" I shouted. The thug's eyes widened in shock, perhaps not expecting such defiance from a woman holding nothing. But I wasn't defenseless, I was a mother. The raw love I felt for Ben fueled my will, igniting a fire in my chest. As I dodged left, I grabbed a loose brick from the ground and flung it at him with all my strength. It struck its target, and he cursed, staggering back, shaking some sense into himself. "Mom!" Ben cried, scrambling to his feet as fear clawed at my gut, but it wasn't over. The leader had regained his composure, rage contorted his features. "You shouldn't have done that," he snarled. "Now you'll pay." He charged forward, fists balled, fury propelling him like a missile. I braced myself, my whole being wrapped up in the instinct to protect my son. A sharp whistle split the air, a sound of hope. Before I could process it, a flash of blue lights erupted from the other end of the pier. Sirens wailed, a relentless sound that pierced through the fog of fear. The thugs hesitated, eyes darting toward the approaching police. Panic bled across their faces, a state of sheer animal instinct. "We've got to go," the leader hissed, his bravado sputtering. "Mom!" Ben's voice pulled me back from the edge of shock. "Ben, down!" I shouted again, pushing him behind a stack of crates just as the thugs began to scatter. Was help finally here? My heart raced, but I knew we couldn't let our guard down. The shadows still loomed behind us, pulling at the edges of my consciousness, but just then, I felt a presence lurking behind me. I turned slowly, breath catching in my throat. "Mom!" Ben's voice was a fragile whisper. I kept my eyes on the darkness approaching, gripping Ben's hand tighter. What if the real danger wasn't gone? What if suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows? It was another thug, his face partially hidden under a hood, eyes burning with intent. "Mom, what do we do?" Ben asked, his fear tangible, infecting the air between us. And as I looked into that shadowy face, a chilling realization coursed through me: the fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. Was I truly prepared for the battles yet to come? The icy air wrapped around us as we pressed against the stack of crates, the shadowy figure looming close, heavy with menace. All the fear I had felt mutated into raw determination. I couldn't let this be the end. My heart pounded one beat at a time, a steady rhythm that drowned out the chaos behind us. "Mom, what do we do?" Ben's voice trembled, pulling me back to the reality that surrounded us. This nightmare continued to unfold, threatening to swallow us whole. The figure advanced, but I forced myself to stay calm, holding Ben tight, each breath a desperate plea for resolve. "Stay behind me," I whispered fiercely, mentally preparing for whatever this thug might throw at us. That instinct to protect surged through my body like an electric jolt, igniting a fire within me that I had never known existed. "Too bad you made it this far, sweetheart," the thug said, his voice dripping with cruel amusement. "But you're just delaying the inevitable." I took a deep breath, eyeing our surroundings, frantic for an escape route. If I didn't act fast, we would be trapped for good. I scanned for anything that could serve as a weapon. A broken bottle lay near my foot, sharp and jagged. A flicker of hope ignited in my chest. "Ben, if I tell you to run, you take off. Got it?" He nodded, trusting, even amidst the fear flickering in his gaze. I crouched low, eyes locked on the thug as he advanced, sensing his self-assuredness. "You don't know who you're messing with," I spat, mustering all the courage I could hold. Just then, in a surge of energy, he lunged forward. The crack of adrenaline lit up the space around us, and I bent down, grabbing the bottle as he reached out to me. With a swift motion, I swung it at him, and the glass shattered against his arm, his roar of anger echoing into the night. The shock of the blow gave Ben the opening he needed. "Run!" I shouted, urgency piercing through the air like a siren's wail. Ben sprinted toward the flickering lights of the boat, his instincts kicking in as I pulled back and faced our attacker. My heart raced, but I couldn't falter. The thug roared in pain, clutching his arm, rage radiating off him as he glared at me, fire in his eyes. "You're going to regret that." He spat, and I could taste the desperation in his threats. "Not if we get out of here first." I shouted defiantly, my voice piercing through the fear. The police sirens grew louder, too close to ignore. They were coming. I felt a pulse of hope, but it fought alongside the weight of danger. "Get to the boat!" I yelled, running toward Ben. We were almost there. Just a few more steps. All I could think about was escape. "I'm right behind you." He clambered onto the deck, diving into the boat just as the thug regained his footing and charged forward again. The throbbing panic binding my chest sharpened into sharp fear. I threw myself on board, my heart racing as I grabbed the ignition, frantically trying to remember how to start this thing. "Come on," Ben urged, terror coloring his voice as he looked back toward the pier. "He's coming." The engine sputtered at first before finally roaring to life, and I threw the boat into gear, the sound breaking through the chaos behind us. I pulled sharply on the throttle as we hurtled away from the dock, the pier and its shadows fading into the distance. Glancing back, I caught sight of the thug, his furious expression a momentarily frozen statue. The flickering lights of the police cars finally arrived, cutting through the darkness, illuminating the chaos of the pier. Arrests were being made, screams echoed, chaos erupted. Relief flooded my veins for a second, but it quickly morphed back into fear once I turned back to Ben. "Are you okay?" I asked, glancing over him as we sped across the water, the breeze slicing through the fear that still clung to me like a second skin. That he nodded, but I could see the worry in his eyes, questions still burdening his young mind. "What happens now?" "We'll figure it out," I said, gripping the wheel, determination clawing at my insides. "We'll make it through this, but you have to promise me no more secrets." He glanced at me, the fear in his eyes beginning to ease with the promise of safety. "I promise." But I felt the weight of the danger still easing in the background. We might have escaped the immediate threat, but the storm was still brewing. One day at a time, I whispered not just to him but to myself as well. I needed to keep my head in the game, we had to navigate what was next. As dawn began to break beyond the horizon, the golden rays spilling across the water felt like a new beginning. I took a deep breath, embracing the warmth, still feeling the binds of anxiety tugging at me. We had survived the night, but now the real fight started. The reality of what Ben had been mixed up in loomed over us like dark clouds. As we floated away from the pier, one thing was certain: this was just the beginning, and we would face it together, stronger than before. I watched Ben's face, the mixture of relief and fear in his eyes, and I knew deep down that together we would confront whatever shadows threatened to envelop us. We would fight, no matter the cost. "Now, here's where you come in." If you want to stay updated on our incredible journey and don't want to miss a moment of these exclusive stories, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm and get the word out, and don't you dare wait even one more second. Flood that comments section with your reactions and theories about our next steps. We want to hear from you. What do you think is coming next in our story? Also, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand how vital your support is for the channel. Your engagement means everything, and we appreciate you being part of our journey.